Hello everyone, this is StringGearCon4 and welcome to my mod tutorial for Tinkers Construct. Tinkers Construct is a mod that gives you access to all kinds of good tools, weapons, whatnot. It's really cool. You can do a lot of customization with them, upgrade, adds world gen, multi-blocks. Let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the crafting station. So a crafting station is simply a crafting table like this. So first thing you want to do, of course, in Minecraft is get a crafting table, and then you turn it into a crafting station just by dropping it into the crafting grid, and you can put it down in the world just like a regular crafting table. But the thing with this is, so you have a crafting recipe, okay? So 4 of those equal that, right? They stay in the inventory even after you close it. So if you do the same inventory like that, it drops it on the ground when you leave it. This keeps it, and you can actually see it in world. Pretty neat. But that's not the only table you can get. So once you get the crafting station, pretty early on, you're also going to want to get a stencil table, which is oak planks and this pattern. So you're going to want to get a lot of patterns because they are going to be very useful, which is just any planks and a couple sticks in a just 2x2 or 3x3 crafting grid. Pretty simple. So stencil table, a crafting station, and then you're also going to want to get a part builder, which is a just piece of wood and a blank pattern. So we'll grab a part builder, and there's one more. So let's see, where is it? Yes, tool station. So that would be a crafting table or crafting station with a blank pattern on top. Okay, let's grab some blank patterns and look at what those are all about. So now that you have these 4 items, you can put them down in the world right next to each other. So you want to do something of this nature. Just put them in a line. If you got like a hill or something, you're going to want to have a little bit of an open area wherever you have them because you're going to be working in this area later. So what these do is they interact with blank patterns and other things in different ways. So the crafting station is just a crafting table, so it's always good to have that wherever you are. And you can interact with these from anywhere, just from one, with these tabs up on top. So if you just have like a hill or something like this, you can just have the crafting table or crafting station, and you can interact with the rest of them from there. Okay, pretty cool. And we're going to want to start using these things. So this is where the blank patterns come in. So you want to go to the stencil table, which is this one, and just drop them in there, okay? And then you want to click any of these to select the part that you want. So each tool, if we look at the tool station, requires different parts. So if we want to make a pick, we're going to want a tool rod, a pickaxe head, and a binding, okay? So that would be a pickaxe head, a tool rod, and a binding. So that just gives us the patterns. Those are not the actual resources. To get the resources, let's grab some cobble. You want to go to the part builder and then put in a stencil. What happened to my cobble? Okay, instead of cobble, we'll use wood to start off with. Okay, so we'll go to the part builder and we'll get a wooden pickaxe head because whatever resource you use, that's what you get out. And there are many, many different resources. You can look them up in materials and which you should get on spawn. So you can look through this book, click tool materials, and see the entire list of them. Depending on what mods you have, you might get different resources. But there's wood, stone, flint, cactus, iron, night slime, ardite, steel, electrum. Like I said, you might have more or less depending on what mods you have, because it does detect certain metals. Okay, so not all of these resources work in the part builder. Okay, you're going to want to use different mechanics to get them. if they don't work here. Okay. So if you want to use cobble, you just throw that in there with it. And it even tells you the material cost. So you see that material cost underneath the name? So for a tool rod, so if we use that, material cost of 1. So if we take that out, we still have it. None, we get 1. Okay? So we can grab that out, and then get... Now let's get a cobble head. And then we'll get a cobblestone, or just a stone binding. Okay? So, nothing too fancy about this pick. So, we have the 3 components that we saw in the tool station. So, let's click on the pick again. So, the components are a tool rod, a binding, and a pickaxe head, like that. And then you can name it as you create it. So, we'll call this stone pick. Neat sound effect. And then you can mine with it. If lag doesn't happen. Like that. So, pick. Pretty terrible early game pick, but it works. But then once you've been mining for a while, you will eventually run out of durability. So once this breaks, it will just give you a different type of item. It's not the pick. It just lets you repair it. So it still keeps all the stats and whatnot, but it won't mine for you. So it'll be like you're holding a stick in your hand, basically. And then you can take it back into the tool station and repair it with the head resource. Okay? So once it breaks, you can repair it. It does not take any experience, so that's good. So you can break something, come back, and repair it. So that's pretty cool. Pretty soon, though, you're going to want to get better tools. So you're going to get to the level where you're going to need iron. And in order to do that, you're going to want a smeltery. So there should be something in the book about that. So if we go all the way to the beginning, so the smeltery, okay? So this is a big multi-block structure that you're going to have to build in a sort of certain way. It doesn't have to be too specific. So here it is. This is about what a basic smeltery will look like. Big structure. But you might be saying to yourself, what are those blocks that are being used for it? Okay, so we're going to look at that. That would be made out of a grout. Grout is made with gravel, sand, and clay. Grout, you smelt it into seared bricks in any sort of smelting mechanic. And then you craft that as you would with just regular stone, or stone bricks, rather. So, let's get a smeltery. So we're going to want a Smeltery Controller, which is just 8. A couple of drains, which are 6 along the side, so you look at that recipe. Get a couple of those. We're going to want a couple of faucets, which are 3 each. We're going to grab 4 of those, and I'll show you why. A couple of casting tables. Some casting bases. You don't have to get these numbers. It's pretty easy to build, and it's very forgiving. We'll grab some seared glass, because why not? So that's just 4 around a piece of glass. Grab a stack of that. We're going to want a little bit of seared brick, so that's just 4 as a brick. Oh, come on, grab it. There we go. And we're going to need there it is, seared tank. So that is 1 piece of glass completely surrounded by seared brick. So we'll grab 1 of those. Alright. So then we're going to build this multi-block structure in a certain way. So the smallest that it can be would be something like so. So that would be the base of it. Here, we'll put these down. Like that. So you would put it around. You do not need corners, though. It might make it look nicer. If you're pretty tight on resources, don't put in corners. So just make sure that it's completely enclosed, like you would have it to hold liquid. Okay, and then somewhere on here, doesn't have to be anywhere specific, you want a seared tank, a Smeltery Controller, and that will be good. This is as small as it can be, I believe. Then you're going to want something like this. So then you can get a drain, and then you want to put a faucet on it. So you put the casting table right underneath the faucet, and that is the smallest you can get and still have a fully functioning smeltery. However, you probably don't want to keep it this small, so let's expand it a little bit. As long as you leave the controller, I believe it keeps the liquid that would be stored inside. We'll get to that in a minute. But just leave the controller if you want to keep everything that's still around. Alright, so we'll put some of this like so. Remember, no corners necessary. And you can make this pretty big, so you could do something. Can I change one shot? There we go. Like that. Okay. And we'll do something like that. Pretty cool, huh? This would be a pretty big and pretty wide structure. Simply to make matters easier, here we'll just use a building wand from extra utilities, or better builders wands rather. Okay. So that's a pretty big smeltery. That's actually very big. Never built one this big in a survival world. So let's get a Smeltery Drain right here. Okay. And then you're going to want to put faucets on it. So I like putting them in the corners. That way you can put 2 faucets on them and get double for what you would get otherwise. So you put the casting table or the casting basin underneath one of these faucets. Alright, that's how that works. Pretty simple. Straightforward. So do that. And that. And then we'll simply do that. Pretty cool, huh? And now you might be wondering, okay, nice big multi-block structure, but now what? Okay, so now we remove the corners that I accidentally put in there. There we go. And we actually begin doing things with it. So you're going to need lava. It doesn't have to be a lot of lava, but I would recommend it. So let me grab a whole bunch, and I will grab a tank from thermal expansion, simply because I'm going to want it. So we'll put that there and just fill it up with lava. Okay, so you're going to want a little bit of lava. We're going to grab a fluid duct. So these do interact with pipes from other mods, so we'll grab a fluid duct. And we'll start putting lava into there. If we look right here, you can actually see it going in. Pretty cool. And if you right-click on the Smeltery Controller, you can actually see the GUI. So this is the fluid that is within the smeltery. These are the blocks in here that are being smelted. So if we throw in a piece of cobblestone, it'll start melting that down. You can see the progress right here. If it can't be melted down, like say materials in you, item can't be molten. Okay, and this is the fuel, the lava. So the actual tank can hold 4 buckets. So the more lava in there, the better. And I think it might even speed up this smelting speed. Don't quote me on that though. But I think it does with the temperature. So once this cobble is done, we will see it inside the smelter. Then we come back when that's done. Okay, almost there. And looks like we're good. Any second now. Okay, we got Seared Stone. So if we actually look inside the smelter, we can see it in there, which is pretty cool. So what do we do with this? Well, how much do we have in here? 1 ingot's worth. That's not much. You're going to want to throw some gold in here. So we'll grab a little bit of gold. Like that. And since we have so many spots in here, you can smelt quite a few. If you have one of those 2x2 before... Oops. So that's another thing that happens. If you get in there, it hurts you and you put blood in there. Which does have a use, actually. You can turn it into basically a slime ball. Coagulated blood. My armor protects me from it, so we can just stand in there. It doesn't matter. But you can actually see the items getting smelted, which is pretty neat. So if you have a lot of ore or something, which you will want to throw in here because it doubles it. So you get 2 ingots per ore, I believe. So yay, we got some gold. It says we have 3 blocks and 4 ingots, and of course a block is in 9 ingots, so that means about 27 plus 4 is 31. So we have 31 ingots of gold. Sounds about right. And what do we do with this? Well, let's grab an ingot. Or you're probably not going to want to use an ingot, but a seared brick. Pretty cool. So grab that, and you can right-click it onto a casting table, like that. And make sure gold is selected. So you click on it to select whatever's on the bottom. And then you right-click the faucet. And it looks very, very cool. And then it starts hardening. It will eat the cast, which would be the ingot. And we get an ingot cast, which can be used for good stuff. So let's right-click it onto there. Okay? So what we want to do with this is select a resource. So we'll say the Seared Stone, and we'll pour that out. And it will start hardening. Since it is gold, it does not eat the cast when it does that. I say eat, but it just destroys it. So if we look at recipes for this thing, casting, it says that 72 millibuckets of Seared Stone gives you one of those in this cast. You can look at other ways to get it. But let's look at, you can look at what the liquids are used for, so that's pretty cool. It says that if you pour Seared Stone onto a furnace, you get a Seared Furnace Controller. If you pour it on the cobblestone, 216 millibuckets worth of it onto cobblestone, you get Seared Cobblestone. Glass, Seared Glass, which you can also get from this. So cool, you can actually look at recipes, alloying. So if we look at Manulin, which is a alloy. No, I don't want it. I want to look at the recipe for it. So, alloying right here. So it says, for every 2 millibuckets of molten cobalt and molten ardite, you get 2 millibuckets of molten manulin, which is a resource that can be used for casting. And as you can see here, there are quite a few different casts that you can get. There are clay varieties, which are one use basically. So you pour it onto any resource, any type of component, and you get a clay plate for it, or a clay cast, and then you can recast, but it consumes the cast, so be careful with that. And you want to get these components in like really cheap resources, so cobble, like that. So for this, you want to do like a stone binding, stone or wood. I prefer stone. So we'll throw the stone binding right here, and then I'm going to pour some gold on it. That will give us a binding cast. So while that hardens, there we go. So now we have a binding cast, which you can use to make different resources, different tool components out of it. So let's look at some ingots that we can get. Let's get some iron, like that, and we can melt that down. Let's also get a little bit of copper, and why not some electrum? Why not? We'll just throw that in there. And it melts multiple at once, so this is much faster as far as quantities. You can just dump in a whole bunch and it will start melting them. Granted, it does consume the lava, so there is that. I broke my fluid duct. There we go. So that'll start filling back up. So you can, if you have any pumps or anything, you can automate the putting of lava into the smeltery, which is very cool. Because if you know me, you know I love automation, so that I don't have to deal with things. Okay, so you do want to be careful about what you put in here. For example, you don't want to put copper and tin in here if you don't want bronze to come out of that, because it will happen, because it does not determine if you want alloys or not. It just happens. Okay, so there we go. Now we have iron. So we can use that iron to make an iron, what is that, binding. An iron binding. Hardens pretty quickly. When you hear that tss, you know that it's done. So now we have an iron binding, which is of a much greater quality than, say, a stone. So you can see the stats of it, actually. If we throw that in here, magnetic. Okay, so this says magnetic. That's the trait that it gives you. Also, it gives a durability of 50 extra. Cool. So when you are making a tool, make sure you take that into account. So where's our book? Materials and you. And we will look through all this stuff. So let's look at iron, for example, because that's something that you'll probably get a lot of. So head. That gives us when used for a head, this gives us 204 extra durability, mining level of diamond, a mining speed of 6, and an attack of 4. That's all just extra stuff it adds. If we were to use, for example, Ardite, that gives us 999 when used for a head. Mining level of Cobalt, which is as high as it gets, I believe, because Cobalt is really hard to mine. It's in the nether along with Ardite. Mining speed of 3.5 and an attack of 3.6. If it's used just for the extra, it gives us a durability of 450 and Petra armor for a modifier. Now, each tool only gets so many modifiers after it is built, so you can upgrade it using those modifiers. It consumes the modifiers, but the tool is better. So, for example, if we had a iron head somewhere, iron pickaxe head, yep, like that, and tool rod. We'll use wood. Okay. So if we go to a tool station, that gives us an iron pickaxe. Okay. But say we want to upgrade our iron pickaxe with redstone, which, if you don't know, increases the speed. So I would advise looking through the book and just whenever you're about to craft a new tool and look through the resources that you can use to make it, get the traits that you want, the stats that you want, and go with that. But then afterwards, as you go along, you might want to upgrade your tool. So we got haste, so that makes us go faster. Each redstone dust increases mining speed by a small amount. So if you do a lot, mining speed attack increases, attack speed increases, and you can upgrade it. So it's sort of like luck 1, luck 2, fortune 1, fortune 2, same idea. If you're familiar with enchantment. So let's grab some redstone. Like that. And you do this in the tool station. So you throw that in there. That gives us 45. Let's grab some just redstone dust. 100? No. That gives us basically haste 1. So if we look at the stats on this thing, it's got a durability of 279. That's how many blocks it can break. Mining level of diamond, so it can mine diamonds, but it cannot mine obsidian. Mining speed of 12.5, so that's not bad. Attack of 5, and modifiers remaining 2. So that's, it had 3, but then when we use redstone, it only has 2. And if you upgrade it to the next level of something, that takes modifier away, okay? If you have a mod called Tinkers Leveling, which I believe I do, so if we look on this, yes, XP. So that gives you extra experience, and when you level up, basically, you just get an extra modifier, which is cool. And then for traits, hover over the entries for more info. So we got ecological, green power, renewable resources are so good they regenerate by themselves, which gives you extra, not extra durability, but it regenerates. Magnetic 2, hitting things attracts nearby things. Haste, which we put on there after we made it. The redstone impulse when using your tool motivates your tool to move even faster. So it's a pretty fast pick, sort of. So if we put this down, that's not too bad. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's say we want to put some lapis on it, so that'll give us luck, right? Lapis block. And we'll throw that in there. Luck 1. But then, watch this. So that gives us an extra modifier. Takes away one of our modifiers, but if we do that, we'll have none left. So make sure you use your modifiers carefully, because you only have a certain amount of them. And then when we do that, if we get some diamond ore, like so. So that was 3 ore. And it was only luck 1, so it's not every time. I think that one might have given us extra. That was 3 more. So we got 8. Okay. Pretty good. So it's just a little bit of a chance to get extra stuff. And anything that's affected by fortune should work. If you use that on a sword, which you can make, so you can make a sword. Unfortunately, I don't think it gives you the recipes in JEI. So if we look through this, no, you can't see the recipes for this thing in JEI. This is not the best tool station though. We want to upgrade this. Okay, so this is going to be sort of a early to mid game thing that you're going to want to do. So you're going to want to get a tool forge, which you can make out of several different resources. So I would advise going with copper if you can scrape together enough of that, which shouldn't be that hard. I mean, copper's not that rare. 4 blocks of it, along with the tool station and 3 seared blocks. Then you can put that down. That uses a pickaxe to break, so just keep that in mind. It's not wood. And you can see we get access to a bunch of other tools. So I'll just tell you what these do. I might even show some of them. So pick, everyone knows what that is. Shovel, axe, mattock. This basically operates as a axe and a shovel. It might even act as a hoe. I'm not sure, but I think it does. Hammer. Mine's in a 3x3 way. Excavator. So it's basically a 3x3 pick. An excavator is a 3x3 shovel. Lumber axe. Basically cuts down the entire tree. Very nice. Scythe. It mows down plants and foes with like. AoE attack. Right click, you harvest something. Pretty good. Broadsword. Regular sword. Long sword. This is more of a lunge attack. Okay. Rapier is a you sort of run in attack, come back out sort of thing. Fry pan. It's basically a heavy weapon. Battle sign. Shield. Cleaver. It is really heavy, does a lot of damage, but it has a really long reload time, basically. Short bow. It'll last for fast movement while shooting arrows, so you can basically move around. Longbow. High damage, less mobile. Arrow. Everyone knows what that is. Crossbow. Crossbow is a slow but very powerful weapon. It has to be loaded beforehand by holding right click, but can be fired at any moment afterwards using Tinkers bolts. Bolts, basically what the crossbow uses. And shurikens. These are thrown. I have not really used these, I'll be honest. They can be thrown from short range throwing weapon. It has a high quantities but low damage. Quantities, what does that mean? Well, these ammo things, basically, or throwables, they have different, how do I put this, numbers. So you know how in regular vanilla Minecraft, arrow, you make them individually. So you craft 4 at a time. Okay? So that's how that works. But the Tinker's arrows, so let's see if we can find some. Let's craft some. We'll do a stone arrowhead with bone arrow shaft, and we need fletching. We'll just get feather fletching. So let's craft an arrow. Okay, so it looks like these also just have singular use. Okay. 1 stack provides many shots, and they can be modified as any tool. So these you can actually upgrade, which is pretty cool. So if we get some quartz, I believe, like this, that gives us sharp. So that increases damage. Cool. Let's get a bow, a Tinker's bow. Like this. So it even shows the arrow that's going to be used. So we can shoot that. We can get the arrow back. There it is. That actually looks pretty cool. And fire it again. Oh, it looks like it creates more than one. That is what happens with this. Ah, see, it has durability. So if you do anything that perhaps increases durability, hint hint, with moss, this Mending Moss, which you get from right-clicking a bookshelf with 10 levels, like that, it might start repairing itself, which is pretty cool. So that's how that works. So you can get arrows that regrow themselves, basically, which is really cool. So you can be out adventuring and basically have regenerating tools and weapons, which is really good. So let's see. Ammo. So it has 12 shots. And it might eventually bring itself back up. And if we do something that possibly increases the durability, like emerald. Um, no, we should probably actually do diamond. Yeah, like that. So that gives us ammo 62, which is pretty good. And since it's bone, it'll shoot 2 instead, which is pretty neat. I like that. So I hope you found this tutorial for not thermal, Tinker's Construct quite informative, and that you now know how to work it with the basics. There's also a smelter, which basically just operates as it's a furnace, but it operates like the smeltery, and it just smelts things. Pretty simple. So I hope that you found this informative and that you will check it out. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.